We are in Clarendon Hills, Illinois today, about 25-30 miles west of Chicago, and we are at the Clarendon Hills Cemetery. And we are going to look for the grave of Bruce Lindahl. We're in. I guess you could say this is like the good and the evil. As I walk here, walking towards the grave of a World War II Congressional Medal of Honor recipient that I discovered. So this would be the good. And his name was Frederick Lester. And this is his grave here. Fred was in the Navy in World War II. He enlisted when he was 17 years old. And he died while serving on the island, the Battle of Okinawa, which was just near when the war was ending, just before the bomb was dropped. I think Okinawa was one of the bloodiest, if not one of the worst battles, along with the Battle of Iwo Jima. Here we have Frederick Lester, who was in World War I, his father and his mom, Minnie Faulkner Lester. This is George. I'm guessing that's his brother, with his wife, who is still alive, Fern. Fred was on the island doing his duty, and they were below a Japanese-held position. It was a hill. Under heavy machine gun fire, they were pinned, and he saw out in the uncovered field position in the open area in front of the lines, a wounded comrade who was just getting shot up. No cover, and he went out on his own and crawled up to that position, and he was dragging his comrade back to a cover position, and he was taking fire, he was taking hits, he was shielding his comrade's body, and the withering fire continued to increase. And even though he was mortally wounded, he hung in there, and he did get his comrade to the position where there were medics. And as the medics started to attend to him, he knew he was going to die, so he refused service from those medics and told them to work on two other Marines along with that comrade. And he basically bled out and died within minutes of giving those orders. So he was awarded posthumously the Medal of Honor, Fred Faulkner Lester. I hope you're resting in peace. Thank you for your service, Fred. Lawrence O. Miller, Private First Class, U.S. Army, was in Vietnam. Lawrence died in 1999, and I see here he is with his father, Otto Carl Miller, who fought in World War II, who was a Purple Heart recipient, prisoner of war in the Battle of the Bulge. I'm sure there are some stories about Mr. Miller and the Millers. Thank you for your service. The Miller family is here. We're on our way on a little walk here to find the grave of probably one of the most despicable people that's ever lived. He's in the group, let's put it that way. His name is Bruce Lindahl. And he This is pure unadulterated evil we're talking about. This guy was the worst of the worst, I think. He, in high school, he was a complete creep, loner, sneaking around, trying to lure girls into his car. In fact, I think the first story I had come across was that he had purposely yanked the wires, the starter wires of one of the girls, and luckily she didn't go with him. Her car miraculously started. And he just did all sorts of bad stuff. But nobody knew how bad it was going to get. In fact, all of the things that he started doing and into murders, no one found out until last year. We're talking from 1967. I'm sorry, we're talking from late 1970s to the early 80s before he got into some trouble himself, which ended his life. Thank God. He started his murder spree, it's believed, with Pamela Maurer. She was the first. He abducted her, he raped her, he killed her, he put her on the side of the road there. And she was found the next morning, and that just kind of got him up to a new level. And from there, his next, which is known about, was known about him, he had lured a woman named Annette Lazar to his house under the pretense of buying some marijuana. Everybody was a hippie back then, and cool, and so he got her. Once he got her in the house, he raped her under a gunpoint. She got away though. She was very smart. She used a psychological strategy of, hey, you're cute, you're my type. We don't have to do it this way. Let's go out together. Here's my phone number. She gave him her phone number on a piece of paper, and it worked. He let her go. Thank God he's a stupid fool. She went right to the police. What did the police do? Well, they didn't do anything, right? So that unfortunately didn't stop him. It just inspired him to do more and worse. His next known victim, and by the way, there were other victims. These are just, they're piecing this all together now, was a woman named Deborah Colliander. She was 25 years old, Aurora, and she was at the Northgate Shopping Center there, and somehow he got her back to his place, and the next thing you know, there's a naked Deborah Colliander running down the street screaming, and they called the police, and they thought they had him this time. They make a long story short, they indicted him. He was going to court, and I think it was just a matter of days before Deborah was supposed to testify then that she disappeared. She was coming out of Copley Hospital where she worked, and that was the last anyone saw of her. Well, fast forwarding 2 years later, they did find her dead in a cornfield, shallow grave. And farmer found her body. No DNA, unfortunately, because she was 2 years underground, washed all the DNA evidence away. But they saved Pamela's, the DNA they had off Pamela. So this guy just kept going, and he's trying to lure and rape, and he was wiretapping people's phones, and he got in trouble for that, and the police came to arrest him. What does he do? He takes out a shotgun, and yeah, it really all culminated a short time later, where he ran into the wrong guy, and his name was Charles Huber. He was 18 years old. He was a high school kid, and met him at the bowling alley and got him to the apartment complex. Who knows what the pretense was? I believe it was something like, let's come to my girlfriend's house and let's get drunk. Whatever the case, Charles and him got into it, and Mr. Bruce started stabbing him. He stabbed him 28 times. Stabbed Charles 28 times. But in the process, Charles was fighting back, and Bruce had accidentally slashed his thigh, hit a main artery, and that took care of that. They both bled out. They both died right there together. And speaking of death, this is him. This is Bruce Lindahl's grave. And you can see here that he was exhumed last November, as I understand, and you can see the ground is all, the grass is different. So what they did is they got his DNA, and it was a positive match with Pamela. So that's one cold case solved, and I think they're working on another one right now. I don't know what victim. There are up to 12 or more victims that they have linked to him, and there's going to be more news coming out about this guy. But you know what bothers me? I'm looking at this tombstone. There's a white dove. That should be a crow. But you know what? His parents, when they buried him, I mean, they had no idea, right? That's what I'm thinking. I mean, no one knew back then. I mean, he had his issues, but no one knew the extent of the carnage this guy wreaked. There's something called USPA. I don't know what that is. But yeah, on April 4th, 1981 was that date with Charles Huber where they both died. So it was probably lucky, because there would be a lot more victims today. A lot more victims. So I'm not really paying respects. I just wanted to document his location. I was more on the curiosity side to see if his tombstone was here, or would it go to an unmarked, or was it desecrated? I'm surprised it's not desecrated. I mean, this guy, well, there's a lot more to come out, so stay tuned. But with that, we'll end this part here, and let's focus on the victims. We are in the suburb of Lisle, Illinois. It's about 30 miles, about 30 miles west of Chicago. And this is the location where Pamela Maurer's body was found on January 13th, 1976. It was at 7:30 that a parks worker from the town of Lisle here found her body. They thought she was hit by a car, and that's what the murderer had intended. He put her here. But it turned out they found some rubber hose. They found out that she was sexually assaulted and some other things. We are now in Oakbrook Terrace at Chapel Hill Gardens West. cemetery, and we are going to pay our respects to Pamela Maurer. We're in. This is a historic chapel here at the cemetery. It's called Hippach Chapel. And it was built in 1926. You can see it's of Gothic design. And its sculptor was a guy named Richard Bach. And Richard was very famous for his work. He worked with Louis Sullivan, he worked with Frank Lloyd Wright. So he was a pretty well-known guy in those days here. You can see that it's made from granite and marble. It's quite dramatic. Very nice detailing. Very well designed. Well, we are going to head over to Pamela's grave. I know about where it is, but as I walked in here, just not too far away, coincidentally, I found the grave of somebody who was a big hero of mine, one of my big heroes growing up, and that is a guy by the name of Johnny Red Kerr. And if you're from Chicago, you know who he is. He was the announcer for the Chicago Bulls for many years, the Jordan era particularly. Johnny had a really good basketball career. I'm not going to get into it, but he's most famous for announcing for the Chicago Bulls. And I'll just tell one funny story about him. He was such an affable, nice guy. Everybody loved him. And Michael Jordan loved him. And Jordan, they were very close. One trick he used to always like to do, and if you're a Bulls fan, you'll remember this from the 80s, 90s, is he would, when Jordan, they'd start the game, tip-off time. Just before the tip-off, Jordan would be walking out from the bench, and he'd go to get some talcum powder. And the dish was right by the announcer's table, right in the middle there. And Jordan would always walk up and clap his hands right in Johnny's face practically, just to mess his suit up. So it became a tradition, and it was all in good love. Some great memories. Johnny Red Kerr, he'd get so excited watching his Bulls. This is John Edward Kerr, who died in 1960. 3 years old. It had to be. I don't know the history, but it looks like Johnny Red lost a son. Betty Kerr. This has to be his wife. She died 9 years before him. They were both born in the early 1930s. And it looks like, just looking around here, that's all the Kerrs I can find. Looks like we've got a World War II just by the dates here. Evan G. Ellis, 1920 to 1971. Thank you for your service. Let's get these flags straightened out. Rest in peace, Evan. We're going to head this way. I know that Pamela's right over this way. We've got a couple more vets, it looks like, that are standing out with the flags. This is Steve Hall. You know, I don't like to say this was Steve Hall. I mean, this is Steve Hall. It is. His soul is in heaven, but I don't know. That's just me. And you know what Steve liked, and he's still got some buddies here. Let's get him fixed up. Flag's got to stand proudly for Steve. So here, okay, here is Betty Ann Maurer. This has to be Pamela's mom. She died last year, a little over a year ago, January 23rd, 2019. And so sorry what you had to endure, Betty, since 1976. It's a lot of years of pain. Hopefully you're resting in peace. Thought Pamela would be right here. Here we go. Pamela is here. Here's Pamela. Pamela A. Maurer. Yep, October 24th, 1959. Unbelievable. That's within 2 months of my birthday. She was born 2 months after me and a few days. January 13th, 1976. That is the day. We won't know if it was the 12th or the 13th. We know when she disappeared on the 12th at 9:30 or so at night, but we don't know when she died, but that's probably about right. Beautiful bronze plaque. Very lonely here. Unvisited. I'm going to put some flowers down to brighten things up a little bit. These flowers, I'm not going to claim that I bought them this time. As I was walking from my car right on the side of the road, they were laying there and I just grabbed them for somebody, and I don't think there's anybody more deserving than Pamela. Everybody's deserving here, but they're for Pamela. Anyway, Pamela, it's I really don't have any words. What's sad is that I really did scour the internet. All everybody wants to talk about is your murder and the other guy and all the bad stuff, and nobody's celebrating your life. So hopefully, I imagine you had friends. You were with your friends a lot. You had a good teenage, up to your teenage years, your early teenage years, and we hope you're resting in peace.